however you choose to present yourself, you're still a part of this community.
Being visibly queer and being visibly Latinx, like I can hopefully make it easier for younger folks in my family and other folks in my community. Regardless of whatever word you choose or what label you want to attribute to yourself, like literally being visible is the most important thing you can do. Never be too visible, right? And that's because they've wanted us to be invisible for so long that any type of visibility is radical. It's political.
See myself as a queer leader because I had never been given that space. Even though I had been an activist and I had been present in my queerness, I never felt that I could be seen as a queer leader. So I wanted to unpack this in a future series with the film. What does it mean for us to take up space in queer women's spaces? What does it mean for us to be visible? And what does it mean for us to unpack the labels that we use? I've used queer, I've used lesbian, I've used lesbiana. I've never really thought so much about those words, but more about what it means to bring my full self into these spaces. And also for us to have those messy conversations about who's actually welcome in our spaces and how are we able to actually have those difficult conversations to make sure that our spaces are actually welcome to everyone who feels kinship with queer womanhood.
First of all, I'm a Black feminist thinker and practitioner. And it's really important to me that all of my thinking and being comes from that place. So we know that when Black people were brought to the Americas on these slave ships, that they were ungendered. And so I start there because already, if we understand how gender works in these United States, we understand that gender is a racial project and that that supports white supremacy. So I already know based off of that, I'm a fat Black femme. I've already failed as a woman. However, I think it's powerful when Black people take on gender and reject gender. So for me, where I'm situated in womanhood is that I'm very much a femme. So I'm very much in my feminist. And I understand that my gender is very much Black in a very particular kind of way. And so I am swimming, backstroking, doing all the things in queer womanhood. And that's where I'm coming from. And that's where I'm situated in. And I claim that for myself. And I root myself within myself.
Figuring out what it means to look at gender and womanhood, maybe not as performative, but as something more expansive, rather than this performative box that sometimes we feel like we are stuck within. Womanhood can be more fluid. You have permission to make it more fluid, especially now.
Grown and gotten older. Part of me accepting my womanhood and talking about it proudly has been also an exercise and practice of decolonizing my mind of what the world or the dominant narrative has taught us about what it means to be a woman. And for me, I'm a history person. I love history. And I have found so much comfort and I think relief to know that my womanhood is not some isolated one-time experience, but it's rather connected to a really rich tapestry of history. I look to my own history as a Korean person and looked for pieces of evidence of my existence or what could have been my existence before, Korea and other places around the world were colonized. And there are examples, there are remnants of what was. And I see me claiming the title as being a woman, a trans woman, as being an act of resistance, resisting against what the world has wanted us to believe what it means to be in our identities. So
when I think of women, since I guess, like I just said, I juggle this and I struggle with this, which I know a lot of people do. I think of my connection to community. I think about my connection to all of these really wonderful people around me. I know there's a privilege to being able to be a part of an intersectional community of women that maybe wasn't so accessible before. So I'm really lucky in that respect. We all are. But in this community, I found connection and empathy and understanding, and really a push to go forward. So, with that, I try to remember that the word woman can be fluid, it can be connected to experience. Woman is to practice what, who was already mentioned, the great bell hooks says is radical love, where together we can decode trauma, reflect on shame, discuss intersectional identities, and name our wounds as individuals and as a collective.
I feel very much like my womanhood has been denied me for my entire life. And I say that with the privilege of being a cisgender woman, but with an awareness that, as Lutzi said, being Black is a degendering project in very insidious and violent state sanctioned ways. And so I've sat in this in between space of like, knowing that I am a glitter femme in one space, but feeling almost militant in my inhabitants of my masculinity and proud of it because it's something that protects me and it's something that sets me apart. And, I'm 6 feet tall. So these are things that are, state violence are things that I feel, whether or not I consent to them, as many of us, I'm sure we can agree.
And I think what's really important for us to remember is that the whole premise of our community, our movement, is about actually making space, expanding access to space or political rights or legal rights, and being able to identify as you are. And
I don't believe in safety. Ain't nothing safe about unlearning. Ain't nothing safe about deconstructing. Ain't nothing safe about decolonizing. And ain't nothing safe about reclaiming yourself from white supremacy and colonialism. I invite people to think, to be brave, to be courageous, and to risk going inside of yourself to wrestle with your inner colonizer. Ain't nothing safe about that.